Hey guys, welcome back to the Laid Back Homestead. I'm Crystal, and today we are going to be doing a harvest to table video. Now, two of the recipes will use the cherry tomatoes as is, and one of the recipes is actually going to use my marinara sauce that I put up from last year's tomatoes. But I figured it's still three recipes that showcase how to use tomatoes straight out of your garden. So earlier in the week, I came out to harvest all of the cherry tomatoes off of these two plants. And today I'm out here bright and early in my greenhouse. I want to harvest all of my volunteer cherry tomatoes because I have a few recipes this week where I'm going to be using those. And one of them is actually a dip that I'm making to bring to my mom's today for lunch. So I need to get all of this mess cleaned up. And I'm actually going to throw some gloves on to do this because I don't want the tomato plants to make my hands itch. And there's a lot of just mealy bugs on here that I really don't want touching me. So I am going to glove up for this one. Not too bad of a harvest off of two free volunteer plants. So the first step with any of your produce is obviously to clean it. I'm going to use a splash of apple cider vinegar and let these sit here, and then I will rinse them and kind of scrub them just to make sure I get all the debris off. And here I just decided to also use my cream sausage tomato that accidentally fell off the plant a few days ago. So now I'm just going in and I'm taking the tops off and putting those in my pre-composter, of course. And I'm giving the tomatoes a scrub and just kind of giving them a look over. I am sorting them into two different piles. The ones that are split and had split on the plant, I'm putting to the right because I want to use those right away. And the rest of them that are still whole and intact, I'm putting in my salad spinner because I'm going to use those in a recipe the following day. This step in the prep work was definitely the most time-consuming part of all three of the recipes. So it's nice to kind of just get them all prepped at once. So the first recipe we're making is a hot caprese dip. You will need a baking dish, you will need some Parmesan cheese, some fresh mozzarella cheese, some shredded mozzarella cheese, cream cheese, and some cherry tomatoes and fresh basil. And as always, the original recipe will be linked down below. And now I'm just going to go ahead and prep my cutting board. So now I'm just going to start by cutting all of my cherry tomatoes that I'm using for this recipe in half. And for this recipe, it calls for fresh basil. I'm going to go ahead and use purple since that's what I have the most growing of. I have to go get some snips. And here I'm just prepping my basil. I gave it a quick wash and I'm going to give it a rough chop. And now in a mixing bowl, we're going to mix together our cream cheese and our shredded cheeses, as well as any seasonings you like to use. And I will also be adding the basil into this as well. And now you just mix everything together. Now I did go ahead and grease my baking dish. I'm not even sure if it was necessary, but I did it. And now we're just going to take our cheese mixture and spread it around evenly at the bottom of our baking dish. And once I was done with that, I decided to add a sprinkle of garlic powder on top. And now we're going to take our cherry tomatoes and lay them cut side down over our cheese mixture. And now we're going to go ahead and add our fresh mozzarella on top of the tomatoes, and if you had extra basil, you could add it here too. And while you're prepping this, go ahead and make sure to preheat your oven to 425 degrees. And we're going to bake this for 25 to 30 minutes or until heated through and hot and bubbly. Sorry about the camera angle, but I had just pulled this out of the oven, and we serve this with crackers, but you could also serve it with a nice crusty bread. Hey guys, excuse the messy garden hair. Just came in from outside, and I want to prepare a quick dinner. I'm making the boursin pasta, boursin cherry tomato pasta, viral boursin pasta, whatever you want to call it. And this should come together super quickly. You can serve this as a main dish. I'm actually going to serve it as a side dish to grilled chicken, just because we are always trying to add more protein to our diets. So I figured this would be better off for my family as a side dish. So let me flip you around and show you what you'll need. Of course, always my pre-composter at the ready. You're gonna need a dish, any size, to roast your tomatoes. I have the boursin cheese, obviously, 2 surprise red onions. It called for 1 medium. I'm using 2 small. I may go out and even pull a 3rd small one to add to this. We'll see. Crushed red pepper flakes, garlic cloves. I thought I had garlic cloves. I do not, so I will be mixing everything in with garlic powder. And it says a pint of cherry tomatoes. I'm just using the rest of this week's harvest, and I am going to slice up also my first cream sausage tomato. I want to give that a little taste test before I cook it, because that's my first year growing that. And you will need some pasta. It calls for 8 ounces. My store, for whatever reason, does not sell pasta in 8-ounce containers, so I'm going to use half of this box. And you're going to pre-cook your pasta, so obviously you will need a pot to do your pasta on the stove. And if you can just get a little look at the abundance behind me, I mean, that is abundance. A little bit overwhelmed, thanks to my father-in-law and my own garden, but I got to do something with all that. So if you have any recipes for zucchini, please share. Okay, in true Crystal fashion, I'm going to add a splash of red wine to this. It's something about red wine and tomatoes or tomato sauce. I can't walk away from it. If I've got it and it's sitting here open, I'm gonna do it. And this is the true beauty of the backyard grocery store. You can come out when you need something, and voila. Go ahead and add this to that pasta. All right guys, so this is the onion from outside. I just harvested, cleaned it off. Still a little dirt, no big deal. That's all gonna get chopped off. I did want to mention though that one of the things I want to do this year is utilize as much of my harvest as possible. So I'm gonna hold on to these greens as well, and I think I'm going to put together a herb compound butter. I've really gotten into that lately, and I really like doing it. So I'm thinking, right now I have an abundance of oregano and thyme. So I'm leaning towards maybe like a green onion, oregano and thyme compound butter mixture. And then I store those in the freezer and just take them out to cook with whenever I want different herb butters. Really good on poultry so far. That's what I've used it on the most, is poultry, but that's worked out well. So let's get to processing. I'm just chopping off the top and the bottom. I'm never gonna proclaim to be an onion growing expert. I'm still really new to it, but I'm gonna take what I can get. And I'm leaving this pretty whole. because it's gonna roast. Before I add all of my tomatoes into my baking dish, let's give this a little taste test. This is cream sausage variety. I got these seeds from Botanical Interest, and it's nice. Nice. I tried to grow them last year with 0 success, but I want to taste this. So I want to taste the cream sausage. I'm going to taste it 2 ways. I always taste it by itself and then with some salt. Oh, that is sweet. Oh my goodness, that is sweet. Salt. Wow. Wow. Okay. That's what it's all about. Homegrown tomatoes, varieties you can't get in the store, cooking with them, eating them fresh. Oh my goodness. I have so many of these growing right now. I'm so excited. This is going to be a close runner-up to topping Brad's Atomic Grape for me. Oh my goodness. Yep. Grow that one. Definitely grow that one. Wow. If you like sweet tomato profiles, I can't say enough good things about that. Don't think we need that bit in there. He did sit a little longer than he probably wanted to on my counter, so not really surprised to see a little discoloration. It's like it never happened. So now I'm going to go ahead and add in my cherry tomatoes to this, and I'll finish chopping up my onion. The reason why these onions were such a surprise to me, I don't know if you watched my garden, I don't know if it was the garden tour, I think it was the garden tour, or it may have been my planting out video. It was the planting out video. I wasn't expecting, these onions had been in the ground for 2 years and hadn't really done anything that I could tell, and they always got shaded out in the bed they were in. They never really had a whole lot going for them. I had left them there because I didn't really have a reason not to. Oh my goodness, that almost looks like it merged with some garlic. I mean, I know it didn't, but it's just one of those things where I genuinely was not expecting there to be anything when I yanked it out of the ground. So that's why I call them my surprise onions. Probably should have got a little bit more of that dirt off. I'll have to clean the board. I mean, this is the hardest part of this dish, which clearly is not hard at all. This is the most labor you're doing here, which doesn't even feel right to like say that out loud. So now I'm gonna drizzle this with some olive oil. It calls for 4 tablespoons, but I'm gonna end up using this sprayer that we have. I haven't used it yet, so let's see if this works. Oh, it can be a sprayer or a pourer. Okay. Wow. Another nifty kitchen gadget. Do our garlic powder. And because my family likes spicy food, I am going to go in. Now the actual measurements are of course written in the recipe, which I'll have linked down below as always. And well, course, just some salt. You can always add more to taste later. And because, like I said, it's me, a splash of red wine. And I'm gonna use a spoon to mix this all together just because I don't feel like getting my hands dirty, but obviously you can just toss with your hands. Just try to get everything kind of coated in the oil and then the seasonings. Just try to get everything coated. Oh, it already smells good. Nothing's even happening, you know? Nothing is even happening yet, but it smells amazing. Oh, and the most important part that I almost completely forgot about, the cheese. Got my little block of garlic and herb for some cheese. Doesn't want to come out. Why are we not moving? There we go. And just plop that bad boy in the middle, and we're gonna bake this 425 for about 30 minutes. And while that's roasting, I'm just gonna go ahead and boil up 8 ounces of pasta. The recipe does call for you to reserve a half cup of your pasta water to mix in with the cheese mixture. And now we're just gonna mix everything together and add in our half cup of the reserved pasta water and then combine our noodles. And now I'm just going to give this a quick taste test to make sure my salt is good. And we serve this along with grilled chicken. This recipe came together so fast, it's perfect for a busy weeknight. Hey guys, so tonight's recipe is a little bit different than the first two because it doesn't use the cherry tomatoes straight out of the garden. I'm actually going to be using my homemade marinara sauce. Now, technically, it's not an untruth because I do use all types of tomatoes when I make my marinara sauce. Cherries, grapes, slicers, paste, doesn't matter. They all go in here. And it is dripping because it's defrosting. Because as I've mentioned in another video, the way that I put up most of my produce that comes in bulk is by freezing it in some capacity, whether freezing it whole like my peppers when I did my hot sauce video, or I make up a huge batch of marinara sauce and I freeze this in little containers. I don't know what size this is off the top of my head because it's leftover restaurant containers. So all that to say, I feel like it's still a good way to showcase utilizing your tomatoes that come from your garden. And it really doesn't matter what size they come in. Any tomato can go into a marinara sauce. Now, this dinner is meant to be a fast weeknight dinner. It does utilize a lot of shortcuts. It calls for store-bought marinara, it calls for frozen meatballs, and it calls for frozen ravioli and shredded mozzarella cheese. And that's it. I'm pairing that with a side salad because tonight's dinner needs to get done quick. It's just a busy day for us. So tonight's dinner does require a little bit of forethought if you're using frozen marinara. First step is getting it defrosted. So here I'm just gathering my ingredients. I have my warmed through marinara sauce. I'm going to use about 16 ounces of the frozen meatballs, about half of that bag, because that's the family size bag of the cheese raviolis. I'm going to do some Parmesan, shredded mozzarella, as well as a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes and a spray for greasing your pan. I am also choosing to bake this in a 9x13 dish. So we're just going to start by greasing up our baking dish. And then we're going to pour half of the marinara sauce in the bottom of the 9x13. And now I'm going to layer in half the meatballs that I'm going to use, followed by the ravioli. Then you're going to top that first layer with a handful of the mozzarella cheese. And then we will repeat the process of layering the ravioli and meatballs. And I finished this off with a layer of mozzarella cheese, Parmesan cheese, as well as some Italian seasoning. And now we will cover this with foil and bake for 20 minutes in a 400-degree oven. And as for the leftovers, I have about half a bag of each left, so I'm just going to store them together in one big Ziploc, and I have basically another ready-to-go meal in the freezer for an emergency weeknight dinner. And while this was baking, I just grabbed one of these salad kits and threw it together, and we had that as our side dish. And this dinner really could not have been any easier to put together. Well guys, thanks for hanging out with me in the kitchen today. I hope these meals inspire you to cook up your harvest. If you like garden to table content, go ahead and subscribe for more. As always, be blessed.